This is Gene Jensen, and I am starting my very first YouTube live chat. I've done Google Plus Hangouts in the past, and just trying this for the first time. If I don't like it, we'll go back to the Google Hangouts, because that's kind of fun being face to face with everybody. There is about a 10-second delay with this, so what I'm saying now you're going to hear in 10 seconds, and I'm just going to try to ignore the video feed coming from my YouTube channel, because that will drive me nuts watching that. So, but please ask questions, leave comments. We're going to start out talking about my MTB Slam. First of all, I fished it on a lake called Lake Lanier in northwest Georgia. Pretty much, it's northwest of Atlanta. A very clear lake. Visibility was about 16 feet. The fish would, I could see the fish coming up on the fish finder to check out my boat. And I went there to do a video about vertical drop shotting, and then the last day, when I finally found enough fish I felt like I could do an MTB Slam, I went and tried to catch fish. So first of all, I opened the box, and the first lure that was in there was the bait ball, the square bill bait ball by Live Target. Let's get it to focus. Focus, focus, focus. I'm going to have to change it. Hold on a second. Flip that around. I've got a little, turn off my autofocus, and then I can make it focus. Alright. So there's the bait ball. And it was a square bill, which made things challenging because these fish were, they were deep. They were real deep. And so my first thought was to put some weight on it, tie it onto a Carolina rig, and go and drag it around. And what that does is it creates, that bait floats, that lure floats up. Let me get in the picture. The lure floats up, and so it's just like fishing a floating worm on a Carolina rig. You drag it on the bottom, and it swims down. You drag it on the bottom, it swims down. And I tried that for a little while. Then I tried just casting out, letting it sink to the depth of that the bass were at, and swimming it through it. That didn't work. So I changed things up, ran over to a long point back up a creek where there was a lot of bait fish up this one creek, and caught a fish on like the 4th cast with it on that shallow spot. So I took it off the Carolina rig. Pretty good little lure. Yeah, I'll elaborate, John. The weight, it's just a Carolina rig, and it's just used to get that bait down there. And I like a longer leader for that. I usually use like a 14, 16-inch leader for Carolina rig mostly, but I lengthen that leader to about 24 inches just to get that weight away from there. But I use those cylindrical weights, so a lot of times it looks like these bait fish are chasing another bait fish, and so it can look like that if you're swimming it. If you're dragging it, it looks like these bait fish are trying to get down to the bottom and get to something, especially if it's a crankbait that looks like a bluegill. You can make that bluegill look like it's going down to the bottom to eat something, and the bass will, it just makes it a little bit more natural. Another thing I like about these bait balls are that that a lot of times during the summer and in the fall, the bait fish are so small that these little bait ball crankbaits can make a big crankbait look like a bunch of tiny little bait fish. And it really helps out when the bass are keying in on those tiny bait fish. This is the first time I've ever thrown this one, or a bait ball, so I was kind of impressed being able to catch a fish so quickly with it. But the way it affected the action, not on that long of a leader. It was different. It was different than throwing a crankbait. And I just put it on my regular Carolina rig. I think I had 15-pound test Iserline copolymer on there. What does it say? Is it worth? JR asked if is it worth what people are paying for it? Yeah, I think so. It's out of my price range. That's why I've never bought one. I like to keep my crankbaits below $10 because I will beat the snot out of them and lose them. And shoot, I lost two lure retrievers this year on the same brush pile on the same day, trying to get a crankbait out. So I mean, I'm not afraid to crank into some of the nastiest stuff. So I don't like to use a lot of expensive crankbaits. So let's see. Let's get to those questions a little bit later. I'm gonna go to the next bait, which was the swimming craw. This is the one I used. Can you tell what happened to it? The little swimming craw. This is a weird color. I don't know what color it is. It's kind of a bluish green something. I guess it's supposed to be their sprayed grass color. Just a weird color I've never seen before. Not saying it's a bad thing, but it's by Big Bite Baits, and I flipped it into a little bush, and I guess a big bluegill grabbed a hold of the claws, and I set the hook, and was fishing it on. What was I fishing on? A Texas rig, I believe. Was I? No, I was fishing on a little swimming jig head, or that swinging jig head. What do they call it? Swinging rugby jig is what I had it on. So, but that was a neat little bait. It's you have those baits like the Rage Craw that have the chopping action, and those are great sometimes. And then I like to have another craw imitation or a trailer on a jig that has a flapping action. It doesn't chop, it just flaps, and that's what this would be. This would be more of a flapping action. I like to try those two different things, see what the bass are. Trying to catch up on some questions. Have I ever been to Alabama? I go to Alabama 2 or 3 times a year if I can help it. I love the Alabama River Lake, or the Tennessee River Lakes in Alabama, and so I tend to every once in a while I'll start fiending and have to go. The next one was the Bonehead tackle. They call it the ringworm. This is a company I've never heard about, and that's what's cool about the mystery tackle boxes. You get to try things with things that are made by companies you've never heard of. And this was a pretty neat little worm. I'm not going to get them out because I got that. I put that bait mate fish attractant in it, so I don't want to get all messy. But the plastic itself was pretty durable, which excites me. It still had a lot of action on that tail, but having a durable plastic, you can catch multiple fish with it. So pretty good. I put that on a Carolina rig and got a bite on it, but dummy me, I didn't set the hook right away, and by the time I set the hook, the fish had dropped it. So it happens. We'll get to your questions here in a minute, guys, so hold off asking them. I gotta run over these things. If you have any questions about the baits I'm using, let's see. What are your options on the free swinging football head jigs? Man, I like them. I really like them. The reason is they don't get hung up on nearly as many things as a normal shaky head, but it's not a shaky head. Two different baits, but you can drag them through cover a lot easier. The football heads are great. There's a company that makes a round head. I can't remember it because I've only seen them once in Hank Parker's boat, and I wish I'd have asked him what it was, because those things didn't get hung on in hardly anything as long as they were rigged right on the plastic, and they catch fish. The thing is, though, the bite is a little bit different. It's more like a drop shot bite. You pick up and you feel the weight of the fish on it. With a jig, the hook is directly attached to the weight, and the hook is directly attached to your line, and the bass bites it, and you feel the thump. Well, with these, you don't feel the thump so much. It's just more of a spongy feeling a lot of times, where you lift up and there's weight on it, and you feel the fish just move a little bit, and you set the hook quick. So, and yeah, they're good for dragging. They're good for hopping. I mean, they're good for all kinds of stuff. I like to just drag them up and bump into a rock and just shake them. And if there's a fish hanging on that rock, he's going to grab it. And it's good for a lot of different types of plastics. Straight tail worms, anything. Any kind of plastic you put on any other hook, you can put on these and fish them, and it'll do just fine. Does anybody use sinking braid? Kevin asks. Yes, I do. I have sinking braid on both of my drop shot rods, and if I could afford some more at $35 a spool for just a little spool of it, I'd get some more. It's not very durable. You have to understand that it gets abraded pretty easy, and it'll break, so you have to keep checking it. But being the fact that it is sinking braid, it helps with a drop shot, so I really do enjoy it. Let's see. Let me see. I don't know what the name of that braid is, and I've got it hanging on a peg out in my garage. It's made in Japan. It's yellow. Comes in a little bitty spool like this, and it's got all Japanese writing on it. So I don't know I can't even read what the name of the braid is. but it's pretty good. And there's some other ones that claim they're sinking braid, but I haven't tested them out yet. So, when's the best time to throw jigs? When the water is wet. Is that a good enough answer for you? Do I still like the FG knot? I love it. I won't do anything different than the FG knot from here on out. It is a difficult knot to tie, and sometimes, a lot of times, I have to tie it twice. But once you get it tied right and everything's tight, it lasts forever. It doesn't break, and you can't hear it come through those guides. Even the micro guides, it casts right through the micro guides. So it's I can't say it enough how much I love that stuff, that knot. So. Let me see if I can go up and pick up some more questions real quick. How many people we got online? Wow, 79. See, Jay Sims asks, have I been to Texas? It's been a while. I went to Lake Fork many, many years ago before all of this YouTube stuff started, and while it was still, I was still trying to figure out how to fish. Borrowed a boat from my father-in-law, went to Lake Fork, and then I fished a little tournament. It was a Take a Soldier fishing tournament, or a Wounded Warrior tournament on Lake Belton, and caught a whole bunch of those stinking Belton bullets that were an eighth of an inch or 16th of an inch short. Didn't do very good, but I had a whole lot of fun. So, but those are the only 2 times I've fished in Texas. There will be more, I promise. Let me see what else we got. Let's go to the next lure real quick. The 8-inch attacker needle. Let's get the package. I don't think I have the package. Nope. Package is in my boat. It's that little needle worm. Yeah, I do. Hold on. From Bass Attacker. Okay, there's the package. So you guys can see it. Infused with bass fuel. I don't know what that is. It smells a little bit like, well, it's got JJ's Magic in it, so it smells like garlic. It's what I did was pretty cool. You can't see it in this picture or on video. You can only see it when you put it in the water. But I took this purple worm and I dipped it in methylate JJ's Magic to about right here, and it created, this thing has a pink glow to it. I mean, it was the coolest little thing, and the only time I got bit was when I dipped it and did that and lost the worm. And spooked the whole school. I was on a ton of fish that day. There were probably 100, 200 fish around and under my boat right there off of that point, and they were schooling everywhere. And it was so clear they wanted everything needed to be perfectly natural. So these purple worms that I was throwing at them really wasn't what they were looking for. You could see them on the fish finder on the drop shot, come up and look at it and swim away, and look at it and swim away. And I did that for an hour and a half, 2 hours, trying to get him to bite. I got one. I dropped it on his head. He bit it right away. He held on to this part of it where I had the JJ's Magic dipped and ripped it off the hook. And so that was the only one I missed. But this is a really cool worm, and I mentioned this in the video. This is a small bag for this big worm, and I think the company just did that to save money on as many things. They were shipping a ton of these baits to Mystery Tackle Box, and they just put them in a smaller bag to save money because packaging is so expensive, and I don't blame them for doing that. So this is the deal. They probably have them in a larger bag. And what happens when you don't is they kink up, and they aren't straight. As you can see, that one's not straight because of the way it was in that bag. So my phone is doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Anyway. Let's see. And then I already talked about the swinging rugby jig head, and the bait mate live bass. So that was my MTB Slam. It was the worst one yet. It was a year ago this month that I was able to do it. Catch a fish on every bait, in one day, and it was a year ago this month. And so now this is my worst MTB Slam, which is okay. It's okay with me. All right, let's get to some questions. If you have any questions about anything, we'll go ask. Except for personal questions, I tend to, well, you ain't getting those. So I'm going to go up a little bit. I never fished in California. I don't do much with, I'm trying to phase out my ducket rods. I'm just, three boys, and I'm going to end up giving all the rods to them and just trying new stuff. I've got a stack of 13 fishing rods right there in the corner that arrived today with some reels, 13 Fishing, and what do they call it, the nine Tackle Company, which is also owned by 13 Fishing, and trying out their new black rods. I got a product catalog right here. These little nope, that's not theirs. There it is. Oh, 8 Fishing, the number 8 Fishing Tackle Company. Let's see, I'm trying out their new blackout rods. I got 3 of those, and so they'll be on the water tomorrow. Let's see. Bradley Wills, any suggestion on deep water walls? We call them bluffs, bluff walls. I usually either drop shot them directly under the boat, or I will throw a jig that that falls really slow, and just let it sink on a slack line. Just watching my line, let it sink vertical on a jig. The key is getting your boat as close as you can to that wall without damaging your boat, and fishing it, alongside the wall or alongside the bluff. So at least that's how I've always been successful on it. All right, let's go down a little bit. Matt Cool asked, do you prefer fishing shallow, mid, or deep? Yes. I like fishing wherever the fish are. That's why I use a fish finder. I used to be a real finesse fisherman, and I used to be a bank beater, but since I moved to Clarks Hill, to Augusta, the Augusta area years ago, Clarks Hill's an offshore lake, and you can't catch them all year long from the bank. And so I go deep. I go out in the middle of the lake. It doesn't have to be deep. It can be 8 feet deep on a hump, but I'm comfortable just about anywhere now. That was one of my goals, was to get to the point where I can catch a fish every day, anytime I'm going. Still working on that goal. Summer's still my bad time of the year. Have I used a watermelon pearl white Cinco before? No, I don't use Cincos. Don't do a whole lot of fishing with Cincos. The only time I fish a stick bait, you got the new Biospawn. Oh my goodness, my mind just went blank. Look it up just to make sure. Biospawn's gonna kill me. The Exo Stick. I totally forgot what it was, but you got the Biospawn Exo Stick, and I use it, and I'll skip docks. That's about the only time I use a Cinco. So let's see. Boy, you guys are making this hard to read, asking so many questions. 105 people, is that right? Yeah, 105 people watching this. Hey, everybody. Let's see. How do you work a deep diving crankbait? I just launched a video about a month ago, Brody, about deep diving crankbaits, and it tells you everything that I do with them. And I'm not super experienced with them, but I'm successful with them. And so there's a lot of people that are a lot better than me, but I basically have taken everything that I've learned and put it into a video about deep diving crankbaits. So go watch that. Best thing to do. Tyler asks, can I get away with fishing a crankbait on 6:4 to 1 gear ratio? Yes. I wouldn't fish a deep diving crankbait with one, but I would, anything else I would, because you won't get worn out, and it's so much easier to slow down than to speed up. You wear yourself on I used to fish 5-1 or 4 1-to-1s, and a fish would bite, and it seemed like it took me forever to get that fish to the boat. So I got rid of those and started fishing 5 3-to-1s, and it feels a little bit better. But there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to fish a 6-4-to-1 with most crankbaits. I fish a 6-4-to-1 with my square bills. So somebody's making fun of me about not knowing the Exo Stick. Let's see. Why don't you fish jerkbaits often? It's a confidence thing. I have confidence in a jerkbait with water temperatures below 55 degrees. I don't have them in the summertime, and I should, because there's a lot of fish caught during that period of time. But there's so many other things that I would rather be fishing than a jerkbait when the water's warm. So maybe I should get a little bit more experience with them in the warmer months. You just fish them faster. That's all you do. I just don't have any confidence in it. Let's see. Tell me what you know about smallmouth fishing. I've caught 5 smallmouth bass in my life. Not very much. There's not very many around here. If I need to get in my kayak and go see if I can find the ones that are here on the Savannah River. Not really behind my house, but down the river from my house, and try to figure that out. But that's the only place I know of close to me to go catch them, and I don't want to beat up my boat trying to get down the rapids with them. So may have to borrow or rent a kayak to go do that. So let's see. Advice fishing the drop shot in the middle of the summer. I just finished editing a video about that. It will launch on Tuesday. It's about fishing a drop shot under the fish finder, kind of like playing a video game. So, who asked that question? Kevin did. Good question, Kevin. I don't fish many swim baits, except for the bull shad, Mike Bucas bull shad. I just don't have the equipment to do it. Really, is the main reason, and that's one of those baits that you throw them all day long for just a couple, 2-3 bites. And when you're trying to get a video going, it's difficult. So maybe one day I'll put something together. I'll get Mike to loan me or one of his rods and go out and fish some of the big ones. I have some of his 8-inch swim baits, but I don't have anything to throw them on. All right, let's go get some that are just recent. Favorite fluke colors: white. How to catch bass in stained water? Just go darker colors. When the water gets muddy or water gets low visibility in it, the bass will get as close to cover as they can. They feel more comfortable when they can see something. So the muddier it is, the closer they get to cover. I won a tournament years ago in muddy water where I had to get the bait within 2 inches of the outside dock post on the docks and let it fall directly down. And by the time it got to the bottom, I'd lift it up and there'd be a fish on it. And I caught a bunch of fish that day and ended up winning like 16.5 pounds. And so, you know, they just get real close. A bass feels comfortable in the mud when they have something real close to their eye, you know, in that muddy, soupy water. Stained water, as it gets clearer and clearer, I'll go with a little bit more natural colors, but not colors you can see light through. That's the biggest thing, is I really want to focus on making a silhouette. So a green pumpkin, June bug, that kind of color works really good in stained water. So that's kind of what I go for. Jigs, things that rattle, things that vibrate are always good. Wow, 125 people on. That's cool. How can you learn this? Well, let me go back to that. How can you learn the structure below when bank fishing? Ledges, points, drop-offs, grass, rocks, etc. I did it dragging a 1/2 ounce Carolina rig, and when I was bank fishing, I just throw it out and learn what the bait felt like when it fell off a ledge, or learn what it felt like when it came over a log, or came up or came down. And you know, a lot of times when it's coming downhill and you're pulling it, it'll come off the bottom a little bit, and you're like, man, if it was flat, it really should not have come off the bottom and then sank down. So go out there and drag around on the bottom with a Carolina rig and just feel the difference and try to visualize in your head what's going on underneath. That's the best way I can tell you. It just takes time. What's my best? I just saw something about night fishing. Hold on a minute. I lost it. Best 3 lures for night fishing from the bank. A black spinnerbait, a Texas rig, big worm that's a dark color, and the spinnerbait has to have a Colorado blade on it, and then a buzzbait. are the three I love to throw from the bank when I'm night fishing. Jack Tully asked my opinions on jigs with built-in rattles. I really think the rattles make a difference most of the time. They never hurt. So have rattles on your jig every time, if is in my opinion. A lot of times, sometimes I don't have a jig on there or a rattle on there, and I actually have a setup in my box where I can add rattles to a jig that doesn't doesn't even have a way to add rattles. So I try to always see what works one way or the other. But when crawfish are on the bottom eating and feeding, they make a clicking noise, so it's better to have a rattle than not. So, what good advice can you give on frog fishing? Fish it. Fish it in low light conditions, in thick cover, and on grass, on everything else. Just go fish it. My son caught a snake on one about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, it was a poisonous snake, and so that was a little difficult. So I kind of had to cut the line and donate the hollow body frog to the snake. Didn't really want to go to the hospital that night. What's my favorite fish to eat? Freshwater's got to be a crappie. With a close second, I finally got the opportunity to eat a walleye when I was up in Minnesota, so that was cool. Poor Fisherman asked, what do I think of the concept from 13 Fishing? I don't know. I just got them in the mail today. So I'm one of those, I like to take it out and get some seat time with my rods and reels before I give an opinion. They look good. They're black. So that's about all I can tell you. All right, let's see. Best rod for punching heavy and light cover. I really never try to suggest a specific brand. I more or less go towards action and power, and so I would say a moderate action or a fast action heavy rod for punching, because you're using heavy sinkers and you really got to turn that fish, and you got to have a huge backbone. And the crazy thing about it is the hook set's a little bit different. You don't pop the hook set. You're using those big old sinkers, and so when you pop it, it blows the fish's mouth open, and a lot of times that hook doesn't get the opportunity to penetrate. So you pull until your rod starts to bend, and then you pull back even harder, and it's not really a hook set. I learned that by watching Greg Hackney, from the first Major League Fishing tournament that he fished to one of the later ones. The first one, he was losing fish like crazy, and because he was popping the hook set. Well, maybe a year later, I watched the next one, and I noticed he had changed his hook set on while he was punching to he was pulling the rod tight and then pulling it backwards, and he lost very few fish that way. So I tried it and figured it out that was exactly what he was doing, and that's why he was doing it, and you don't lose near as many fish on it. So big heavy rod, 65, 70, 80 pound test braid, and heavyweight pegged with a lure that'll slide down through the grass, and that's what I like about the new Valcraw, and I've been using the rage tail baits for a while. Is the Valcraw has a little pointed nose, and it slides right down in the grass and then picks up pretty easy. So that's a pretty fun bait to flip and to punch. I can't wait till I get to a lake like Guntersville. I don't know if I'm going to Guntersville, but a lake with a lot of hydrilla that's matted this fall, and go punch some stuff. So it's going to be nice. What's your biggest fish? It's on that video where I caught it on a kayak, 10 pounds, 12 ounces. So, or 10 3/4 pounds. Let's see. Hard bass fisherman asks, how do I get confidence in baits? You go fish them. You take only that bait until you start catching fish on it. I did that with a jerk bait. I did it with a jig. I've done it with a crankbait. I've done it with everything that I've wanted to gain confidence in. Guys who've known me for years know that I used to hate a spinnerbait, and now I fish one a lot because I've gone out and just taken a spinnerbait and gone fishing with it. Learn the different ways you can cause fish to bite fish in those. Watch my videos. It helps you out in the beginning, but you still got to get out there and go fishing with them and gain confidence. Get it in your head that you can catch fish with it. So, how do you fish high pressure lakes? I hate it. Very frustrating. Yes, it is. The best thing I can suggest is become a finesse fisherman and become really good at reading your electronics. I was talking to a guy about electronics today on the phone, and the biggest thing is people have these $3,000 and $4,000 units, and they don't know how to read them. And the guy with a $400, $500 unit on his boat that knows how to read them can outfish that guy any day of the year because he knows what he's looking at and he knows how to use it. So learn how to read electronics, learn how to find fish, and then finesse them to death if they're beat up. Don't worry about boats coming by you. I've had many days where every time a boat came by, I'd catch a fish because it would stir up the bait fish or it would cause a reaction strike. So don't worry about that, but just go out, go fishing, and finesse fish it, and don't have your hopes up to catch a billion of them. So. And this thing is hard to scroll. Am I going to do these often? I'm going to try to do them every month. I never can promise you because my schedule gets so crazy. But my kids are about to go back to school, and so is my wife. She's a school nurse. So, yay, I get to do a lot more stuff. I'll be able to plan a lot more stuff and do a lot more fishing. So, let's see. Best spinning rod, the one in your hand. To be honest with you, I don't believe in the best of anything. There's so many good rod companies out there, both custom rod companies and production rod companies that make great rods, and there's no such thing as the best anymore. Just one that feels good in your hand, one you have confidence in, and one you can feel the bites. I'd steer away from the cheaper ones. Stay around the $75 and up range when you're trying to pick out a rod these days. The $100, $115 rods are great. A lot of them, like the Dobbins Fury, feel like $165, $180 rod. They just have a little bit less expensive components, but the blanks are excellent. And so, it depends on what you're holding. Anthony asked me if I ever used the EXO reel from, I want to say it's the Quantum reel, I think. No, I haven't. How many pair deer? Kirk asked, how many different plastics do I carry? I used to carry a ton of them. I used to carry 3 of those big, giant Plano boxes full of soft plastics. Now I've whittled it down to just a few. I have my box for my sponsors' plastics, and then I have my box for like my other plastics, like my Zooms, the Confidence plastics that I have. But I find myself fishing straight tail worms more than anything. Speaking of straight tail worms, you guys have already seen me talk about, a lot of you guys have seen me talk about this one. This is the new 6.5-inch plasma tail by Biospawn. I am excited about this one. I love to fish trick worms and straight tail worms on Carolina rigs and shaky heads and drop shots and everything, just about everything. I mean, I have probably 3 times more straight tail worms than I have any other soft plastic. And this one right here has got some amazing action. I had a little bit, I gave him a little suggestion, or he asked my opinion on the tapering of the tail, and that's about the only thing I had to do with designing this thing. So I didn't really do anything. I just told him I liked how thin the tail was. But it has great action, and it doesn't have a whole lot of salt, so I consider it a floating worm. So it's great for Carolina rig. It's great for a shaky head. It's great for a drop shot, and it's still got just a little bit of salt to give you that flavor. But I put JJ's on everything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Excited to get out there and fish that one. I just got this sample pack in the other day. So I'll be taking it out tomorrow. Nice worm, awesome worm. Let's see. David Berry asked a really good question, and it's one that I got asked a few days ago too. It says my bait caster is messed up and it makes weird noise. noises and doesn't go very far and backlashes all the time before it hit the water. What do? Take it to a local tackle shop and have it serviced is the best thing. Or find a local guy that cleans and cleans your reels, and have him go through it is the best thing. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong with a bait caster when it's when it's grinding and all kinds of other stuff. Especially the inexpensive ones that got a lot of plastic parts. Those plastic parts can wear out quick. So and a lot of them really do make a lot of noise when they get dirty. So go have it serviced. Best thing I can have you do. And take it to him. Don't try to take it apart yourself if you're not very mechanically inclined. Um, and don't take him a bag of reel. A lot of parts all in a Ziploc bag. Just take it to him and let him fix it. Where do I get JJ's Magic? Tackle Warehouse. You can get it directly from jjsmagic.com. A lot of different places. So um, let's see. Anthony Niego asked me, what's my job? I am an x-ray technician. Been shooting x-rays for about 18 and a half, almost 19 years. That's what pays the bills. That's what makes it to where I've been able to grow this YouTube channel the way it is because I have a full-time job and can keep my family fed. So, but now I'm trying to make the YouTube stuff and the fishing stuff a full-time job. So we'll see if that works. Who knows? See, Joel Fisher asked me where I went in Minnesota. I caught my walleye, and I want to say it was called Deer Lake is where I caught my walleye. Any suggestion on fishing deep water summertime flats? Crank them. Crank the snot out of them, and change different angles and try to find something that's on that flat that's holding the fish, whether it be grass or a rock or something, stumps, something. I'm always going to crank a flat just because I can maintain that depth. And I love it that it's all pretty close to being the same depth anyway. So that's what I try to do. Let's see. Let's see. Where can I fish in southeast Georgia? I can only find PFAs that have literally no fish. It's called, as the screen name's Tea Time Vice. The best thing I can say is go to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources website or Wildlife Resource Division website and look under fishing. And under there they have places where to go fishing. And just search the counties. And I did this morning, matter of fact, and look for the small lakes and all the public lakes that are in your area. There might be a few. I know there's some PFAs, but there's also probably some county lakes or something that you can go to. And a lot of them, that website may even have a map of it. So check that out. It's a good place to look for Georgia anyway. Man, this thing is so hard to scroll. Let's see. Any advice on shallow water fishing with jigs? Also, have you ever tried or heard of new tech lures? Shoot, shallow water jigs, I'm just going to move as fast as I can with a jig until I get bit and then slow down and just drag it. But the new tech lures, yes, I have. I actually have a box of them they sent me late last year, and I've fished the snot out of them and caught one fish. I'm not saying that they don't catch fish. I just haven't. I've only been on one really good jig lake. Clark Hill has not been a good jig lake this year because there's not a whole lot of grass, and I like to fish a jig on the hard bottom close to that grass, and been kind of difficult to find fish on that lake this year. But but they're good jigs. They don't get hung up very easy. You get a positive hook set in the roof of the mouth every time. They're really good. I just haven't had a whole lot of success with them. Plus, I've been trying to do videos about other things besides jigs, so that has a lot to do with it. What are your gosh, I think it's hard. Have I ever used weight baits? Oh, see this little bait right here? It is a Omega custom crankbait. Just came in the mail. But I've got that one and I've got this one, and they're wake baits. I'm gonna go try them out in the next few weeks. But really excited about it. And I've fished wake baits a lot, especially here on Clark Hill, because they feed up on those blueback herring all the time. So you want to throw something, they're not hitting topwater, something that's just under the surface making a wake, because that's what those blueback herring do a lot of the time. So they're just under the surface and you can see them making that V. So I'm excited about using especially this one, and see if they can come up and hit it. So yes, I have used wake baits. Do I have confidence in them? Not a whole lot. I still fish them, and when I'm catching fish with them, I'll keep throwing them. So, what's my favorite lake to fish? Lake Wilson in Alabama is my favorite lake to fish at this point. I feel like I know it well enough. I can go have fun, and I love fishing bluff walls and those shelves on those bluff walls that are on Lake Wilson. So that's my favorite. Deepest I've ever caught a bass was 56 feet deep on a drop shot spotted bass on Lake Altoona years ago. It's the deepest I've ever caught a fish. Advice on first tournaments. I don't fish tournaments. I don't have a whole lot of advice. Just come up with a game plan and go fishing, and stick to your plan. And so that's the best advice I can give. Just go in with confidence. Best wintertime fishing tricks. Slow down. The biggest thing, drag a jig real slow, shake your head real slow. There's a lot of things you can do. It's just a matter of how cold the temperature is. Jerk bait real slow. I got a bunch of good tips on fishing when it's cold. Now the biggest thing I found is the fishing is the best if you have a warm up. If that water temperature starts to rise, the fishing gets good. If the water temperature is on the decline, below 50 and on the decline, the fishing is next to impossible. So I try to go on some warming trends in the wintertime if I can help it. So, sorry guys, I'm having a really bad heartburn. I ate a pizza tonight. Eric Miles asks, it seems you don't favor Rapalas. Do they just hit that price range you want to avoid? No. A couple of 2 or 3 years ago, when I was really trying to gain confidence in the crankbait, I decided to go with strictly one brand. That way I could get to know all the little nuances of that brand, and I chose one that had everything I needed. It had everything from deep divers to shallow divers to really shallow divers to everything. And so I started using Strike King crankbaits. So the other option was Rapala, but I went more with Strike King because mainly they were easier to find and they were right at $5, $6, $7 a piece. So that's the biggest reason. Had nothing to do with Rapala. I have some. I use their SR5s a lot in the fall here on Clark Hill because that's a lure that it's kind of a local lure that everybody uses during that period of time. So I'm not against them, but I just tried to make it easier on myself. So Jay Lynch asks, how do I catch fish on deep ledges when I know they're there but they won't bite? I'd try to. Typically, what I would do is I'd try more reaction baits. I'd do something like a big heavy jig and what do they call it? Stroke it. You yank it up off the bottom, let it fall on a slack line, and yank it up off the bottom and let it fall on a slack line. Something like a spoon, something that just falls right in their face and it just surprises the heck out of them and they have to bite it. I'd stay away from the dragon baits. A crankbait worked really fast would work. Anything that you can get down there and just surprise the heck out of them. A lot of times when they're difficult to catch, that reaction bite is all you're going to get. So that's your other option. Be aggressive. Beat the crap out of them. I don't fish tubes, Kevin. Sorry. Too many options out there. I don't. That's one of the last things I ever think of. Um, okay, I'm getting a lot of these questions. I'm gonna single you out, Anthony. He asked the question, "What bait should I use for gravel flats?" Um, it's kind of, you know, there are so many baits you can use for one situation or one specific type of bottom, no matter what it is. And the biggest thing is that you take what you take stuff that will cover a lot of those areas, be it hard bottoms. I can consider gravel flats being a hard bottom. That's it, hard bottom. So I'm going to fish, things like a jig, a Carolina rig, a crankbait, anything that I would fish on the bottom that comes in contact with the bottom. I'm going to fish on gravel flats. If I'm fishing a silty bottom and there's fish suspended above the silt, I'm not going to fish things that get on the bottom because they're going to go down in that silt and the bass aren't going to get to them. So I'm going to fish things that are up off the bottom, crankbaits that dive, a little bit higher, spinner baits, Carolina rigs on a long leader, that kind of stuff. You fish your conditions, you fish what you're throwing at, and you try to make them work. The biggest thing. So that's one major deal you got a hard bottom, fish stuff you're going to fish on a hard bottom. You got a soft bottom, fish things you're going to fish on a soft bottom. If the fish are suspended, fish things that you'll fish, at that depth, be it deep or shallow. It's just where the fish are. You say, okay, this will fish there, this will fish there, this will fish there. And then throw those and then let the fish tell you what they want and then modify it from there. That's kind of how I develop my patterns. And so, Josh Helms asked what my favorite knot is. I tie a proof clinch knot about 99% of the time, a Palomar knot with braid. What's the weirdest thing that I've witnessed while out fishing? People that don't know how to drive a boat. There was a guy that had a brand new boat years ago. I was being the boater for a Junior Bassmasters tournament. And this poor guy had just bought a brand new bass boat and he did not know what the tilt trim switch was. And so he had his son climbing up on the front of the boat to try to get it to go down because he didn't have his motor trimmed down. And so I felt real bad for him. If I hadn't been helping this kid, by being his boater, I'd have gone over there and jumped in the guy's boat and showed him what the tilt and trim switch was. Kind of weird. That was more funny than weird, but I don't see a whole lot of weird things that I remember at least. So, best baits to use on a new lake, the ones you have the most confidence in. Good question. I love that question. DJ Harley asked, what's your favorite bait company? I try not to have too many favorites. I'm a big fan of BioSpawn. They're my sponsor. They're helping me make this dream a reality, so I have to say them. And they make great baits. But I mean, there's so many bait companies out there that are making good baits, and I don't really have a favorite. If I have a favorite, then I feel like I sell myself short when the fish want something else. So try not to keep those favorites. Ooh, dry mouth. Let's see. Do I fish Texas rigs much? A lot of times. It's like my bread and butter most of the time when I'm on a new lake or on a not a new lake but a new area of the lake, something that has a lot of things I can pitch and throw to like docks and brush and things I can see. I'll tie on a Texas rig so I can work it a little bit faster. Throw it in and jig it. Throw it in and jig it. So let's see what else. Keep asking, guys. This is fun. I got a question for you guys. Do you like it? Those of you who've been on my Google Plus Hangouts, do you like those better, or do you like being able to ask questions this way in a chat better? That's kind of what I'm trying to decide this time. Because if I feel like I need to go back to the Google Plus Hangouts where I'm talking to people and actually they're on the video too. I'll do that. But the bad thing about that is there's you're only allowed 10 people at a time. So, and it's hard for me to get them to switch off. So, do I fish jigs often? Not so much, mainly because I'm mainly working on videos when I go fishing now. So I'm fishing what I want to make a video on. And I have a lot of jig fishing videos. Maybe if I fished a lot just for fun, then I'd be fishing a jig a whole lot more. So, where can I buy biospawn lures at? Cabela sells them, and then you can buy them at Tackle Warehouse, and you can buy them at the Biospawn website. And the Biospawn website has some good, good incentives and good, good things you can do to get the price reduced. Anyway, can't remember what they call it. Do you ever fish for catfish? Not intentionally. Let's see. D Parker asked me. Let's see if I can get it to come down. Do you ever fish? I see you in a lot of lakes. Do you ever fish any rivers at all? Also, I used to be big on worms, but I have actually started to like Strike King rodents and missile bait D-bombs. Have you ever tried those? I've never tried those. I consider them uh, just a flipping and pitching bait. So, you know, I've got tons and tons of different pitching and flipping baits that have that kind of that same profile, that same kick and everything else. It's a reaction bait. You throw it in, you drop it on their head, they bite it. And so I'm not too concerned with the details of a flipping and pitching bait. Do I ever fish any rivers? I do. The one behind my house is not a good river to fish because it's 5 miles south of the Clark Hill Dam, or 8 miles south, something like that, 5 to 8 miles south of Clark Hill Dam. And it gets cold when they're pumping water. It gets down into the high 50s. And so the bass just don't live on this part of the lake. You can catch a few of them. My kids go out back and catch bluegill and catch a few small bass. But it's difficult to find bass on this part of the river. If I went 40 miles down the river where it stayed warm all the time, I could probably do a whole lot better. And if you're fishing rivers, I tend to try to get out of the current a little bit. Those bass will be positioned somewhere that the bait fish and whatever's coming down the current will swing into whatever dead space. They don't like a lot of current because it wears them out. They're lazy. And so they're going to be somewhere just off of that current in an eddy, and that's kind of where I focus on. You know, and so, but you know, that's river fishing. I need to do a lot more of it. It's just too much of a drive for me, and I'm not that good at it. So. A good starter boat, a kayak. It is kayak fishing is so huge right now. It's not even funny. They're having 200 and 300 boat tournaments. Get a kayak and go fishing. Have fun rigging it up. There's tons of YouTube videos about how to rig it up. I'm going to be working on one tomorrow or the next week about how I have my Hobie rigged up. I love fishing out of it. So a kayak is you know, back when I was a teenager, it was those little 10-foot little bass buggies that you can put a trolling motor on, but a kayak is so much more portable than that. So that's what I would suggest. Do I go to Bass Pro or local fishing stores? I don't. I went to Bass Pro the other day and bought very few things. I don't find anything that appeals to me anymore at Bass Pro shops. You know, a lot of it's just mass-produced junk. Personally, that's what I feel. But I go to Academy to pick up odds and ends because it's right down the road, and that's it. The rest of it's all online. I tend to venture towards people, you know, online stores that give you free shipping, and I'll wait till I need a whole bunch of stuff and I'll make one big old order at one time. Now, remember, I got a job. I have a lot of these young kids, and this comes from conversations. You know, I'm able to afford my fishing stuff because I have a good enough job and I make enough money to be able to have a little bit of extra left over, or I can go buy fishing stuff. And my wife doesn't want to divorce me because of it. You know, still keeping food on the table, still paying the bills and everything else. That's what allows me to go fishing and to be able to have what I have now. So for all you young kids, go to college, get out, get a job, or go to trade school, get out, get a job, and then worry about how you're going to pay for fishing. And if you want to pay for fishing now, go mow lawns. That's what I did. Cool thing about mowing lawns is you can set your own schedule. So if you want to go fishing, you can go fishing. Never fished Wisconsin, Evan. Sorry. Have you experimented with a Ned rig? Yes, I have. I'm actually working on a video for a Ned rig. Just trying to get a little bit more confidence in it and get some good footage about it. And once I have a good day with the Ned rig, you'll see a video on it. So very excited about it. That Z-Man Ned, the one by Z-Man is awesome. I caught one on that MTB Slam not too long ago. And I'm going to go up and see if I missed any good questions. Blaker, this one, Blaker12138 asked, how long do you wait when you see a bass hit your topwater frog? This is answered in a couple of my frog fishing videos. What I do is I wait till I feel the fish. Typically, it's 2.5 to 3 seconds. 1 1000, 2 1000, 3 1000, set the hook. This also rings true when you're fishing baits just under the surface and you see the bass hit, like a fluke or a wake bait or something like that, and you see the bass hit. You need to wait. 1, 2, bam, and I set the hook. Is how I do it. So give it a little bit of time. My son missed a whole bunch of them the other day on a topwater frog, and finally he was able to catch them when he was able to stop jerking the rod and count to 3. Let's see. Ever fished Virginia? No, not yet. I hope to go up there soon, though. I got some friends that have invited me up there. There's 158 people on? Goodness gracious. Wow. Sean Hammock asked, do I recommend subscribing to Mystery Tackle Box? You know, I am thoroughly happy about Mystery Tackle Box. My kids love it. They go nuts when they get a new box every month. One of the best things I've ever gotten for them. And it helps those people who like to try new tackle to get new stuff they may have never tried. These guys at Mystery Tackle Box work hard to find these bait companies that are able to produce the baits they need, but also that aren't very well known. And so they work hard to get these bait companies to send them some tackle so they can, or they actually buy the tackle from them, but they, so they can send them out to you guys so you can try them. It's pretty neat. Another question I get a lot about Mystery Tackle Box every time I post one is the statement I get is, I got a different box than you. Why? They send out 2, 3, 4, and 5 different packages every month. They spread them out because these little companies can't always send 25,000 of one bait. It would put them under. They just don't have the resources to produce that kind of stuff. So they get what they can get, and then they pack them into the boxes, and they make sure that the cards are printed up to match those boxes. I can't imagine how difficult that is to do. So that's one of the questions I get. Have I ever fished Lake Hartwell? No, Sport Fanatic 423. I have not. I want to. I've fished Lake Russell, but I've never been up and fished Lake Hartwell. Let's see. Jack Tully asks, do I trailer my Hobie, or from what I've heard, they are heavy? On my video, when I show how I hook up a Hobie, I'll show how I put it on my truck. I don't trailer it, but it goes in the back of my truck pretty easily. I have a bed extender and everything else, and so I'll kind of show how that's done. But yeah, they are heavy. They are very heavy, and if you're going to get one, make sure you get the wheels. Very important. Favorite color TRD. He's asking. This is Al Basson. He's asking about the TRD for the Ned rig. And any soft plastic, the first thing I'm going to try is going to be green pumpkin according to the watercolor. And so that's kind of what determines what my favorite color is for that day, is what's the water clarity, and I have a good video about water clarity on my channel. But you know, it's my favorite one's always going to be green pumpkin. It just seems to catch more fish for me. A lot of people's favorites are like watermelon red or watermelon, but green pumpkin has always worked the best for me in just about any situation except for really muddy water. So, boy, I wish I was a fast reader. It is 10 o'clock. We're going to give this 15 more minutes. And then I'm going to get off. Let's see. Sport Fanatic 423 asked me where do I work. I work at a hospital here in town. I'm an X-ray technician. This is the weirdest thing. It's so hard to scroll. Thunderbird asked kind of a question I've never been asked before. What are your fishing tips for isolated cover? Throw at them. I mean, that is such a key pattern a lot of times is fish will be located on isolated cover. You have this big old pile of trees and you have this one little stump off to the side. And for some reason, those fish are going to be on that stump. You know, that kind of stuff. They love isolated cover, and I'm going to throw whatever I got in my hand at them. Crankbait, spinnerbait, whatever. You know, jig, Texas rig. If I see something, I'm going to throw it at whatever at that isolated cover. So huge thing, especially when you're bank fishing. Look for that oddball thing that's sticking out a little bit further than everything else. You know, just isolated something. So have you used Trigger X? I don't know what those are. Mikey asks, do you have any bait suggestions for hard bottom pond that is shallow? If it's hard bottom, fish something that's on the bottom, that is worked on the bottom, and fish something that bounces off the bottom. It's, you know, I spend all day sometimes looking for a place that's got hard bottom on a lake, because a lot of times that edge where that hard bottom meets that soft bottom is where all the bluegill will be and where all the bait will be and where all the bass will be. So I spend a lot of time looking for hard bottom when I'm scanning with my fish finder. What is my dream lake to fish? Chase Johnson asked. You know, my experience with lakes is, my dream lakes have more to do with who I'm fishing with than the lake I'm fishing. Really, I would love to fish Lake Falcon with the owner of Rage Tail, Steve Parks. I would love to do that because he knows a lot about that lake and he's a great fisherman, and I just always have a great time talking to him. Been a friend of mine for a number of years, so I'd have to say that's one of my dream lakes. Another one is Lake Erie with a guy named Dwight. That's one of those things I just want to go smack some monster smallmouth up on Lake Erie. And so kind of on my bucket list. So those two lakes, north and south. Here's a good question. What is the point of using such heavy braid, 60 to 50 pound, etc.? I use heavy braid on my frog rod because I'm fishing heavy cover. I don't have to worry about the fact the fish, you know, seeing the line because they don't care. They're in that heavy cover, and all they're doing is reacting to what's on the surface with that bait coming across. Same thing with heavy punching and flipping jigs. If you have never fished thick matted hydrilla, then you won't understand why you need 60-pound braid. I caught a 6.5 pound bass on Chickamauga last year. I pitched into about a foot of water on the backside of this hydrilla, and the hydrilla mat was only about a boat wide, so 18 feet wide. And by the time I picked up, this fish had already swam out under the hydrilla out into the open water, and I had to rip through all that hydrilla with that braided line before I could set the hook. That's why you use braided line. And a lot of times that fish may only be 3 pounds, but you're going to bring 40 pounds of grass or 40 pounds of something in with that fish. So you've got to have that heavy line to be able to get out of or get that fish out of that heavy cover. So that's the biggest thing. And if I felt comfortable using heavier, I would. But 50 to 65 pound braid is ideal for flipping and pitching a heavy cover and for frog fishing. And for frog fishing, it's mainly because one, you got to get them out of that heavy cover, and two, those big old hooks are hard to set if you have anything that stretches. So you want that line that won't stretch at all, and so you pop them real hard, and it gets those big heavy hooks buried in the tough part of that fish's mouth. So you've got to have thick braid. I know you guys think it's crazy, 50 and 60 pound braid. Put the 50 and 60 pound out of your head. It's about no stretch and being able to cut through the grass and being able to bring stuff in. That's when the 50 and 60 pound part of it comes in, is when you're trying to bring that heavy stuff in along with the fish. So do I like loose reels? Yeah, I do. I haven't had a problem with them. I just barely started using them myself, but I've been suggesting them to people for years because the price point to the quality of reel you get is great. So, what's my favorite aluminum boat? Come on, Drake. Uh, I love my Alumacraft. Dude, I absolutely love it. I don't care if it's a sponsor or not. I love that boat. It's a great fishing boat. It's wide. It's stable. It rides good in chop. It's fast. I just love it. It's comfortable. It's a really good, comfortable boat. There's very few things I would change for it. I just sent them my list of suggestions on changes for next year's boat. But, I like it. It's a lot better than my last boat because my last boat kept trying to sink on me. The Alumacraft has a one-piece hull. The hull is made out of one solid piece of aluminum, so there's nowhere for a weld to break, on the hull, and it feels more solid when you're hitting chop. And so I love it. I can talk about it forever, but anyway. Do I use monofilament? Yes, I use monofilament on my Carolina rig, and I also use copolymer, which is like a fluorocarbon coated monofilament. I use copolymer almost, 60, 70, 80% of the time. I'm down to my last little bit of my Iser line, 15 pound. I bought a big old 1 pound spool about 4 years ago. I'm down to my last little bit on it. About time to replace it. But yeah, I use monofilament. I use copolymer monofilament more than I use anything else. So, ERAC asked, will your son ever start a YouTube channel? He already has, but he doesn't have any videos yet. So we kind of started it up, and we'll work on it as soon as time permits. So, but yeah, he's going to start a YouTube channel. Best beta rig for submerged hydrilla is a Mojo rig because you can fish on top of it. Also, just swim something across. Swim a fluke, buzz bait, a spinner bait across the top of that hydrilla, because until it gets matted, it really doesn't have. It has spaces up underneath it for the bass to hide, but it's not like the highways you get when it mats out. When it mats out, you get like it's open underneath there, and so. When it's submerged, it's a little bit different. And I look for the clumpy submerged hydrilla, where it's got these big old clumps that look like VW bugs underneath the water. So I like to fish those areas. Ever think about fishing with Lake Fork Guy? Yes. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to him about it once. It'll happen. And I don't know when it'll happen, but it's going to happen. I'm going to make it, maybe once I'm able to get this thing to a full-time gig, I'll be able to travel a lot more and be able to go do that kind of stuff, because it would be great to have a collaborative video with him on like Lake Fork, or somewhere else. So yeah, I like him. He's a great guy. And that's what's cool about YouTube is most of us get along pretty good, and we all want to work together, try to make each of the kind of reach our goals. And so I'm always good for a collaborative video. And so yeah, I'd like to fish with him. Um, let's see, bass fishing FL, Lowrance or Humminbird. I use Lowrance. I also have used Humminbird, and they're on the place I guide up in North Carolina every once in a while has Lowrance 1198s on or 1199s on them. And so I know a lot about both of them. I prefer Lowrance. It's easier for me to use. I understand it better. I know how to set it up better. And then when I have to make quick adjustments like contrast and things like that on my side imaging, I'm able to do it on Lowrance a lot faster than Humminbird. And also the Lowrance, when you stop to do something like mark a waypoint or pause it to zoom in on something, Lowrance continues to record behind the scenes. So when you come back up, you can go back and see what you missed. Humminbird doesn't. It stops recording, and you can't go back and see if you missed anything while your boat was drifting. So I don't like that. I hate it. It drives me nuts. So that's the biggest reason why I continue to use Lowrance. So you'll see that on my boat for as long as it takes, and I love them. So let's see. How can you tell when your bait is running along the bottom of the lake? Throw it out. Let it sink. You'll notice that your line is rising as it's sinking. Okay, when that line goes slack, it's sitting on the bottom. When you drag it and it comes off the bottom again, you'll notice that line starting to rise again. And when it goes slack, it's sitting on the bottom. If you drag it and that doesn't happen, you kept it on the bottom. So that's the difference. Okay, it's all about that line. It's the line between your tip of your rod and that's going into the water. You'll see it rise and you'll see it go slack. So that's how you tell. Austin Engel, do you fish any tournaments? I don't really like to fish tournaments. I get this question a lot, is, why don't I fish tournaments? Personally, I don't like myself when I'm tournament fishing. I like to say I'm a kick your puppy and slash your tires type guy when I'm fishing a tournament. I don't like myself. I don't like how I feel during the tournament or before the tournament or anything else, because I love to share information. I love to talk to people. I love to do all kinds of stuff. And when I'm fishing tournaments, I feel like I got to bottle it all in, and that's not me. And so I prefer doing this. I love to teach people and help you guys catch fish. That's why I don't fish tournaments. I found what I love to do. I found what I have passion for. And like those tournament anglers, those elite guys, I know a lot of them, and I know what they go through, and I'm not that person. I'm not that dedicated to that side of the sport. I'm dedicated to the side of the sport that I'm able to teach you guys. The side of the sport that brings more anglers into the sport of fishing. So that's why I don't tournament fish, and that's probably why I will never tournament fish, except for little pot tournaments here and there, little 4-hour throw in $30 and go tournaments. So. See. I can't comment on that one, Noah. Sorry. Yes, one day there will be a Fish with Flukemaster giveaway. I promise. Just got to get to that point where I can do it. What are the best lures to use when fishing? Crap, it just disappeared. Ah. Have I ever fished Maryland? No. Have you ever fished New York? No. Ever fished in South Carolina? If I throw a rock from my back fence, I will hit South Carolina. And yes, I have a South Carolina fishing license, and I fish it all the time. So I almost got arrested for fishing at a public pond in Nevada. Needless to say, I am completely demoralized. Should I quit fishing, Gene? No, Taylor, don't do that. Just go somewhere else. Do a little bit of research. Make sure you get in. There's got to be information online about public fishing areas in your places you can fish in your area. So, yeah, don't let it discourage you. You know, I got pulled over for a crack in my window the other day, my windshield the other day. I can go get it fixed. It's no big deal. Um, One tackle box, what baits? Ooh, that's a good question. One tackle box. If I had one small tackle box, what baits would I have? I'd have worm hooks. I'd have bullet sinkers, and I'd have soft plastics, and I'd have a chatterbait. That's it. So, and I think I could probably figure out how to catch fish. The soft plastics would be a straight tail worm, a ribbon tail worm, and like a bile craw or something, a crawfish bait. Those three, because you can make a crawfish bait look like a bluegill if you swim it right. Turn it on its side and swim it. You can do all kinds of stuff. And the bile craw you can also use as a topwater frog. It's really versatile. So that's definitely one I would have in there. So. Bradley Lindsay asks, how can you tell whether it is muddy bottom or a rock bottom without a depth finder? It's by feel, really. Drag something with a weight, Carolina rig jig, something with a weight that's attached to the line, and just feel it. And you can feel the difference between whether it's sluggish or whether it's you're pulling it and it's going through the braid or through the thick stuff. So we're gonna do this for about 5 more minutes. Somebody asked, what's my Instagram? My Instagram is Flukemaster. Hello. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Like I said, guys, I don't really answer bests of anything because I don't think there's a best of anything. The best lure out there is the one the fish wants, and I'm gonna try everything I got in the box until they tell me what they want, and that's the best one for that day or for that hour. May change. So I don't ever have a definitive answer for that. Have I ever fished Louisiana? No, I haven't, not yet. I was at the Bassmasters Classic in Louisiana several years ago, but didn't fish there. So, hey, here's a cool question, Robert. I can't pronounce your last name. In the Army, used to say when we couldn't pronounce your name, we'd say just XYZ. But anyway, Robert XYZ asks, how do you add, or have you added any new stuff to your Lumicraft? How is the G-Force cord working for your trolling motor? I'm thinking of getting one for my Minnesota Fortrex. I've added quite a few things to it. I added the little rod straps that hold my rods down, and those plastic ones. I got them at Academy. They break pretty easy, so I pretty much they broke within the first week. But I just wanted the little tie downs anyway, and I take those cheap small bungee cords and use those as a rod strap. They last a year. Take them off, put new ones on, and you're out. 60 cents or so. So that's what I use for my rod straps. I put those in there. I put the G-Force cord on there, and I love it. It's great. It's not going to wear out. It's not going to get damaged. It's a solid piece of equipment. I put the little silencer on the front of the trolling motor. I can't remember what they call it, but basically it replaces the nut, the prop nut, and it screws down and it reduces or eliminates the vibration in your trolling motor. And that's about it. I added, everything else came stock. Of course I added all my little hooks, my little lure keepers inside the hatches, and my tool rack that's just underneath the just behind the front deck. So that's all I added from what I can remember. Trying to understand this question, but I kind of like it. When do you call it quits I'm assuming it said meant as. When do you call it quits as a fishing pro? I guess. I guess it's when you can't afford to do it anymore. When your family starts to go poor or go hungry. The biggest thing as a father is you want to make sure that your family eats and you have a roof over your head and you're able to pay your bills. So if it ain't working, you go do something else that pays the bills. How did I crack the windshield of my car? I drive down a road that almost every gravel truck in the area drive down. So, and it's a major road at 55, 60 miles an hour. If you haven't gotten your windshield cracked or on that road, you consider yourself lucky. That's for sure. I've had 4 rocks hit my windshield on that road. Do I fish Lake Lanier any? Yes. The MTB Slam was done on Lake Lanier, and the next video that comes out on Tuesday was done on Lake Lanier. I fish it once or twice a year. Best budget rod and reel combo. The ones I started with were the Bass Pro Shops combos. Just get the one you can afford, start out with it, and then save your money for your next one. One rod and reel, which one do you use? Medium fast action, 7-foot baitcaster with a 7-to-1 gear ratio reel. I can fish a lot of things on that, and I can fish things you're not supposed to fish on that and still be successful. You don't need a 1,000 rods to be successful as a bass fisherman. My basic rods are simple: a medium action spinning rod, a medium fast action baitcaster, and a medium heavy baitcaster, and I covers just about everything. I have a whole bunch of rods because I can have them, and because I want to teach the exact rod to use for each technique that I'm teaching. So. Bobby Rex, kayak videos. Yes, I'm working on securing a good place to do some kayak videos. Just one of those things where I could go behind the house, but it'd be horrible fishing just because of the cold water coming out of the dam. So yeah, I want to do some more in my Hobie, some more videos in my Hobie. So yeah, those are coming up. Oh, there it is, Jake. You kind of finally spelled it right. When do you call it quits at a fishing spot? When I lose confidence in that spot. When I don't think there's any fish there, or when I think the fish there aren't going to bite. I get up and move. So as soon as I say, oh man, this place just doesn't feel right, or it sucks, I'm gone. I'm going to go find somewhere else. See, Travis, this is going to be the last question. Travis asked, Travis Harville asked, please tell me what a G-lock worm hook is. Hold on a second. I'm going to step out around here and grab a hook. Okay. A G-lock worm hook. Let me turn my macro back on. All right, you see that bend in that hook? That's just a regular wide gap Gamakatsu hook. Okay, a G-lock will come down further and then come up. And just a little bit, it comes down a little bit further and comes back up and just causes that bait to lock in just a little bit better. So it kind of does this number. That's the difference. And that's it. There's nothing else that's any different than that. So that's the trick. Make sure that you that you put that hook on right and everything else, but there's nothing more than that. So anyway, well, thanks guys for hanging out tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't get to all your questions. I could make this last forever. Leave some comments. Let me know whether you like this format or whether you like my Google Plus format better. Help me make that decision. So anyway, take care. Have a good night, and I'll see you next time. We'll do this again in a month.